Hello there, beautiful souls. I'm Lauren Van Bajra, and this is episode 1 of Men Have Feelings Too. Who knew? And today, our guest is Ko Hara Lan. He's a men's empowerment coach, and he holds men's healing retreats and offers both group and private mentorship, helping his clients master their energy so they can master their lives. Welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. What's that?
I've been excited about doing this. I think we got
I know, me too. So one of your mantras is master your energy, master your life. What can you tell us about that? And what are some ways you use this in your work and incorporate into your teachings?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example from a recent retreat we had, and I was breaking down these levels of creation. And we talk a lot about manifestation, and law of attraction, things like that, or just creating the life that you want. And what we find is that there are 5 main levels of creation. And I'll just go through them right now. So there's like the physical realm, which is the most dense. That's like, I want to create change in my life. So I'm going to take this thing and move it over here. I'm going to build something. I'm going to change my diet and support my health in that way. So we create change by influencing and making transformations on the physical level. But then there's the mental and emotional level, and that affects our physical body as well. And you'll begin to see that all these levels are interrelated, but there's kind of a hierarchy to it as well. So when we change our thoughts about something, then we can start to become a different person. We can start to take on different characteristics and traits. We may change the way that we feel because of simply changing our thoughts about things. Now, the problem with changing our thoughts alone is we got like 60,000 thoughts per day, according to neuroscience. And so if we're trying to control 60,000 thoughts in order to shape our lives the way we want them, we're like fighting a losing battle. This is why oftentimes positive affirmations and things don't really work, because they don't actually go deep enough into the psyche, like bypassing the limbic brain to get into our subconscious where the real change takes place. They can be
So
helpful.
are you saying that the affirmations don't work because they're just saying them without feeling them?
Precisely. Yes, it's like the old movie What About Bob with Bill Murray, and he's just like walking down the street going, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful. And he's just repeating this over and over again, but he's a neurotic mess inside.
Yeah.
No matter how many times he says that, it's not changing the fact.
So tell us about your experience at the retreat that you just had.
Yeah, so I was explaining that, if we're able to change our emotions, right, then that's going to be much more influential, because if you change one emotion is responsible for thousands of those thoughts, right? If I'm feeling sad, I'm producing all these thoughts that are reinforcing that sadness. If I'm feeling exhilarated, my thoughts, my energy is going to be totally different. And so my thoughts, my thinking, what I'm focusing on, what I'm saying to myself is going to be totally different. It's going to reflect that inner state that I have of exhilaration, of gratitude, of appreciation, or of depression, of sadness, of anger, and things like that. And so if I reside in a high emotional state, my thoughts will begin to reflect that. And then also my physical world is going to begin to reflect that. We just kind of know this intuitively, right? When you're feeling really good, your life tends to work out pretty well. And when you meet people, they feel that, right? So your interactions tend to be better. And whether this is in your personal life or in your business life, this is very powerful, because, if you're feeling confident, let's say, in your job is sales, for instance, or, if you're a public person like yourself or me, and, if you're in a state of confidence and love, self-worth, gratitude, appreciation, empowerment, and things like that, you're going to be most effective at doing your work. You're going to be able to influence people in the highest ways, and you're also going to be having a great time doing it. So if we change our emotions, we master a great deal of our lives. But there are, even higher levels to this hierarchy. And so I find in my own experience that energy is extremely potent at influencing all the levels below it. And also it is extremely, it's a big part of our experience that some people aren't necessarily always aware of, because it's a little more subtle than emotions. But if we tune into our emotions, what I find is that our emotions are basically a representative of our energy frequency signature. It's like an expression, it's an external expression, which we can feel, so we can be aware of it. It's external to us, in other words. And that is a good gauge of wherever our energy is residing right now. And so what I learned through, some practices of meditation and self-inquiry that I've been working with over the years is that there are ways to influence ourselves on all these levels. Obviously, we can change the way our actions are. We can change our thoughts, and we can change our habits. We can change our emotions. We change the way we feel and how we express in life. And if we change our energy field, then we just change everything. We change what we begin to attract into our lives. We change both the outgoing expression, right, which is our frequency signature, and we change what we're drawing in and creating in our lives as well. And so the energy really affects all levels. The only level above that is consciousness. And I don't really talk about that a whole lot because it's a much deeper level. And that's something I'm only going to go into with somebody when they already have a good grasp of those first four levels.
Sure.
The basic premise of it is, though, that we find this in ancient philosophies and spiritual practices around the world, is that the ultimate basic essential nature of all beings is consciousness. It's our most basic essential quality. Here's a quick example of this, right? If I say, I'll tell you what, I will give you everything in the world that you want, everything that you could possibly want, I will give it to you. And I'll only ask for one little thing in return, okay? That I'm going to give you whatever, any experience, any amount of money, any relationship. You can be the queen of the world, whatever it is that you want, you'll have it. But the only thing I'm going to ask in return is your awareness. Would you take that deal?
Yeah, definitely.
You would take that deal.
Of course.
Well, if I take your awareness, what good is all that stuff?
Wait, maybe I didn't understand what you asked.
Yeah, let me repeat it. So I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to offer you everything you could possibly want in the world. And in return, I'm only going to ask for one thing back. I want your consciousness, your awareness. Would you take that deal?
So the awareness would be taken from me. I wouldn't be focusing my awareness on that. No, I guess not.
So think about it this way. Awareness is the background for every experience you've ever had. Is that right? I mean,
Sure.
If you weren't aware, you wouldn't have the experience.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how much you own or what you have. If you don't have consciousness, you won't experience it. It's meaningless. So consciousness is the ultimate essential nature of what we are. It's basic to every single experience that we have, but it's often overlooked. And so that's why I don't talk about that a whole lot until people have some good experience with meditation and self-inquiry and things like that. But it is pretty fascinating. But nonetheless, what I found is that by developing a relationship with this energy body, with my frequency signature, as I often call it, because it is a living entity, it's a conscious being. It's not separate from me. It's not like something other than. It's connected to me and it is me. But in the way that we relate to one another, there is a relationship that's like, just like you and I are relating to one another now. There's awareness there, and I say something and you're aware of it, right? And you can respond to that just autonomously. Our frequency signature is the same way. When we learn to interact with it and build this relationship with it and have this connection, then it responds to us and we're aware of that response, and there's an interplay, there's a dynamic, and it's very powerful.
Could you tell us about an experience where you've used this in your work, like maybe like at your retreat or something?
Yeah, so oftentimes I'll lead people in guided and through processes and things. And I'll get them to kind of detach and unhook from their normal level of ordinary awareness, right? The mind identified state that most of us find ourselves in most of the time, which is like centered behind our eyes. And oftentimes we feel like, people express this, I feel like I'm stuck in my head. And I lived in that state for so many years. For like the first half of my life, I was really, really stuck and blocked. I wasn't really in touch with my emotions, certainly wasn't in touch with energy. I had emotions, right? I had energy, but I just wasn't aware of them.
Yeah.
Not the nuances either. It was very like black or white. I'm happy or I'm mad, but I'm not really, there's not too much in between. So through this process of, unhooking and being able to embody, going deeper in, allowing our awareness to penetrate deeper into the physical body. Then we take it to the emotional center, right? And we start to feel feelings. We work with feelings. I often will help people just release the feelings at the feeling level. But it's like Einstein said, we can only solve a problem, or rather, we can't solve a problem at the same level of mind at which it was created. So if the problem's on the emotional level and I need to change my emotions, well, I got to access a higher level of mind in order to fully influence that and change it. And so that higher level of mind is the level of energy. So once I tune into the emotions, though, and I'm really able to unhook is a great word, to unhook from this repetitive thinking cycle and identified state, and go into the direct experience within me. And I can become acquainted with these emotions directly, not as an abstraction, not as I think I feel like this, or maybe it's because of this, but this is a very visceral, direct experience. Like, can you feel your knee without touching it? Can you feel it from the inside? Well, if I can do that, then that's taking me into my body. So now I'm a little closer, I'm a little deeper. And if I do that process continuously, going deeper into the emotions, I can eventually go deeper than the emotions and I go into the actual energy. And once I'm there, I like to consider this as being in front of the master control system of our psyche. So once I'm there, I can begin to flip switches. I can create massive changes very easily because I'm at the central control panel where the real work for change is being done, the subconscious, the psyche. And oftentimes, many practices that people do in a lot of traditional psychotherapy doesn't work very well because they're not actually accessing the subconscious. They're playing around they're moving furniture around in the mental institution and calling that freedom. But real freedom is by getting out of the mental institution, right?
Yeah. Can you give us an example of like an external happening that was a result of working with energy like this in either you or your clients?
Yes. Well, so, I'll give an example that was pretty amazing from one of the recent retreats. We had a group of guys up to the farm and we were doing a lot of qigong, yogic practices, a lot of these processes, and I was giving some lectures just to give people a background on, enough intellectual understanding to motivate them to actually want to do this work. And many people, I think everyone really had a breakthrough, a massive breakthrough. And there was a couple that really stood out in particular to me. One of them in particular was this guy, I won't mention any names, but he showed up to the retreat. He was angry, he was carrying a lot of anger. And I could tell that. And it was almost off-putting, the retreat. And I almost didn't allow him to come because I wasn't sure if he was going to be ready for it. People have to be at a certain level of readiness to do this work. It's intense. And it requires stepping out of your comfort zone. And it requires oftentimes leaving behind the conceptions and beliefs that we formerly used to navigate life, because they're just not going to work at this level anymore. So that can be scary, it can be frightening, it can be a challenge for someone, and they have to be certainly ready. And they have to have enough faith or trust or belief or enough of an understanding to actually want to do the work, because it can be painful, it can be very difficult to go through this. Oftentimes, a lot of people, it's just easier for them to suppress it. They just don't want to look at it, just push it down, avoid it, take drugs, or we just distract ourselves with busyness or whatever else, and then I'll have to look at this stuff or blame others for my problems. But so the guys who come to these retreats, they're ready. They are in so much pain that they're motivated, highly motivated to take whatever suggestions are given. And so in any case, it came to light through working with this guy that one of the things he'd come out of a very difficult relationship. He was going through a divorce. There was all this trauma around that too, but there were some other really, really deep things going on too. He had lost 2 of his brothers to suicide. And, and it was just in the last recent years. And he wasn't able to resolve the feelings that he had. He had bitter resentment. He felt abandoned. He was angry at them. He was hurt. He was grieving and couldn't let go. All this stuff. And I mean, this has gone on for years. Now, the quality of this man's life, you can imagine having experienced this stuff and having it unresolved. I mean, it was a daily constant reminder. And another thing that was a daily constant reminder was the bullet casing from one of the brothers' suicides he had on a necklace that he was carrying with him. It's a constant
Wow.
pain. And after working with him on the retreat, on the third day, he came up to me and he said, I wanted to let you know. He pulled me aside and he said, I just wanted to let you know that what I experienced earlier today was so profound. I can't even believe what happened. But we were in that experience. We were doing, we were putting ourselves through this rite of passage. He said, in the midst of it, I had a vision of both of my brothers. Now, this had never happened to him before. Both of them came to him, and he felt as if, like, he was like, this was real. Like, I wasn't just imagining this. I could feel them, and I haven't felt them since they passed. I felt them, and I connected to them, and I interacted with them, and I was able to resolve the feelings and to let them go.
Beautiful.
And I was getting chills as he was telling me this. And then, and then he told me about the bullet casing, and he asked me, he said, man, you've helped me let this stuff go so much. I was just wondering if I could let this thing go, if I could leave it here, if I could just, give it back to the land and free myself of it. And I said, brother, that is a great idea. I would say you need to do that, man. Thank you for asking. I appreciate, he didn't want to be disrespectful. He didn't want to like violate my land by doing this. And I was just so honored that I was able to be supportive of him and to help him through that.
Yeah, I noticed on your Facebook post that a lot of the men there had huge transformations. Can you tell us some of the core issues that these men that you're helping are dealing with nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the guys I'll mention too, this is just a brief thing, but he had severe PTSD from being in Afghanistan. And he came back for the second retreat. The first retreat, he had a good experience, came back for the second one, had an even better experience, came back for the third one and was able to stand in front of everyone vulnerably. I mean, tears coming down his face, so filled with gratitude and ease and peace about this. And he said, I'm PTSD free. It's gone. I don't have it anymore. So that's one issue.
Fucking awesome.
A lot of these guys, they might have lesser forms of PTSD just from the traumatic relationships that they've been in. A lot of them have been through relationship drama and trauma. So they've been dealing with, people with narcissistic behaviors, and they've also had their own, issues of lack of confidence and insecurity, or maybe they just got comfortable in their relationship. Maybe they just stopped really going for it in life and just became happy with the status quo. And then a lot of times what happens is that do this, they go through this and they've been in a relationship for a while. Maybe they're married with kids. A lot of them have been married 15, 20 years. And then they get into this cycle of, well, I guess I'm just settling in, this is just life. I don't have to worry about anything. I got what I need. I've won the game. It's just time to kick back and enjoy it. But these women that they're with, that's not doing it for them. They want a man who's demonstrating excellence, who's striving for more, who's showing that he has a vision. He's not just satisfied with everything as it is. He can feel fulfillment currently as it is, but then there's something inside that's driving him for more even. And that's a very attractive quality, and it's a very empowered quality. And when a guy loses that, then he's subject to lack of self-worth, being, overbearing, being with someone who's like overbearing or like super controlling. And then a lot of times they're just trying to be the nice guy, or just trying to make things right, or, just whatever I can do to make her stop yelling, or, things like that. And they're just trying to fix problems like that, but they're not really addressing the deeper issues.
So is relationship issues one of the core issues that you work with?
Yeah, definitely. And it's because, it's a manifestation. The real issues are the self-worth, the insecurity, the fears that are unresolved, the things about themselves that they're not willing to look at or they're avoiding.
Why do you think so many men are seeking healing now? when before the whole narrative was like, just toughen up, just deal with it, stuff it down. And I feel like what we have now is a result of that conditioning.
Well, I'll tell you from my own life, that's the climate I was raised in. And I was told I was too sensitive, suck it up, be a man, don't cry, don't be a bitch, things like that.
And how did that
also,
manifest for you?
I was trained through this experience to suppress my feelings, to not show vulnerability. Because if I show vulnerability, that's weakness, right? And so I was programmed in that way, and it shut me down. And so when I did experience, I experienced all sorts of trauma as a kid. I didn't have a bad life, so I don't want to say like my life was horrible, but I definitely went through my share of things, and being unable to express them healthily or to ask for help. I was left to my own devices. Which, what are you going to do when you're 3, 5, 7, 10 years old, even a teenager? Our best thinking isn't going to get us very far. And we need some guidance, we need some support and help. And if that's not there, or if it's there but it's not encouraged, and if I feel like maybe I'm by doing going to be judged for it, I just won't do it. And so the reason why you're seeing this now is because those strategies don't work. Yes. And it didn't work for me, and using that long term took me to some really, really dark places, and it created a whole lot of mess, trouble, conflict, and drama in my life. Eventually it got to the point where it was so much, I recognized I got to do something different. What I've been doing is not working, and whatever I've been thinking is not working. So I don't know what the solution is, but I know that my way of doing things has gotten me here, and I don't want to be here anymore. And that's when I was so fortunate, because I hit rock bottom. I hit the very, very rock bottom. I was in total despair and desperation and emotional turmoil, and I didn't know where to turn. But I turned to the only thing that I felt be able to help me, which was spirit. And so I began to investigate my connection to spirit, and then ultimately through that, I also opened up to certain practices and processes that were extraordinarily helpful at undoing and unwinding these emotional knots and suppressions, techniques, and things for avoiding life. And I began to undo them, and it's been work, and it's taken years, like 15 years I've been doing this work, and it's still not done, but my God,
is it ever?
I don't think it is. And the thing is, now I don't worry about that, because life is so enjoyable and challenges become fun to me now. I don't get overwhelmed by challenges. I get excited about them.
So what do you notice when a man comes for his first retreat? Does he have any issues with opening up and becoming vulnerable? Are there any reservations around that for first timers?
Luckily, I haven't had that problem really, because I set the tone right from the beginning, and I usually offer some vulnerable shares myself as soon as the guys get there. And I encourage that, and I let them know why. I was trained as a counselor. One of the things that we learned that was useful in all my years is the sooner you can get people to become vulnerable, the sooner everyone will become vulnerable. Mm-hmm. The sooner people do that, the sooner they begin to trust, they begin to share, they begin to ask for help, and they begin to grow and find solutions. And you find that when you are vulnerable, it's not that you are making someone else carry your burden, but your burden gets lightened. And when you're vulnerable and genuine, and this is different than being a whiner or a baby, or just like wearing your heart on your sleeve, or I use this word, and it's so difficult to get this point across sometimes, because people have been ingrained with the idea that vulnerability is weakness. Yeah. I'm explaining to them, this isn't like a rabbit laying in the road that just got hit by a car. That's vulnerable in a certain way, right? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a willingness to be honest and genuine about what's really going on with you, without expecting anyone to do anything about it or fix it, without burdening them, or without making myself a victim. And there's such power in that.
Oh yeah. Brené Brown talks a lot about vulnerability and the power that, and the connection that comes with becoming vulnerable. And I think it is just so fucking beautiful that so many men are starting to embrace this now. And I feel like it's so needed, because you see this like rise of the feminine, you know, but how are we going to really rise if our men are just like so emotionally stunted and hurting? So I feel like real feminism is just kind of like reverence for both, and just bringing both up and wanting, you know, both to transcend the pain and the limiting beliefs. And it's a lot of feminism now, which I don't really consider real feminism, is kind of like just totally smashing men. Like, oh, men aren't necessary. I hear these like stupid sayings that just like men ain't shit, men are only good for whatever, all men are this, or all, I mean, people just say it like so easily, like, oh, you know, all men, they don't know how to like connect to their emotions. And we just have so many like bullshit programs running, both men and women, about each other.
You know, and you begin to see what you expect to see too.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're expecting all men to be, then you're going to be projecting that.
That's what I was telling one of my clients the other day, because she was like, yeah, you know, all men, they don't know how to do this. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to connect. You know, and I told her, I said, well, that's what you believe. So that's what you see as a man. So you want a man. So you see all men, you know, don't know how to deal with their feelings or talk about their feelings, or I don't remember exactly what she said, but so she had this belief, and she also kept attracting men that were in alignment with that belief, because that's what she saw that a man was, and she wanted a man, and that was a quality that she has already decided that a man has. So of course her reticular activation system could only see men with those traits.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you know how all men are. And I'm like, no, I don't actually. You know?
Looking for that co-signing, right?
Yeah. But it's just so ingrained. And it's going to take a lot of unwinding in both men and women to get where I feel like we're going.
Totally. And it's, you know, it's not for no reason that your friend feels that way. And without blaming either side, you know, it's just a reality that we have to look at, because yeah, men today and for the past while, you know, have as a whole not been in touch with their emotion. They've been very shut down emotionally, very guarded. And when we're guarded like that, our ability to connect is not there. And you know, human connection is something we all need, right? And it's, but in particularly it's something that's, I think it's a more feminine quality, that desire for connection. And so if our men are shut down, then they're not open to connection, right? They want connection too. Believe me, we definitely want connection, but we're so shut down oftentimes we don't even know that. Like I was talking earlier about my experience of loneliness and disconnect, thinking that I needed a relationship to fix it. And then I realized that what I really needed, what I was really starving for, was connection, just human connection. I took care of that. And all of a sudden I didn't care about being in a relationship anymore. I was happy, fulfilled. So it's a recognition, you know, we got to recognize that we have to own it, and then we have to support each other in balancing these masculine and feminine energies, because it's gone both ways too. You know, there's the women have been taking on more and more of the masculine roles.
Yeah.
And that's why you get that sense of like, I don't need a man. What do I need a man for? I can get a job. I can cook. I can clean. I can raise my kid without him. You know, I can bring.
You really want to do it all.
But yeah, how fulfilling, how satisfying is that?
Yeah.
The reason why you're feeling that way and thinking that way is because you don't know there's a better option.
Yep.
Or you've given up on the hope I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and her girlfriend, who I also know, was feeling jaded in her current life situation. She was like, "Yeah, I'm just done with relationships. There's just no good men out there, and there's just like, it's just not even worth it." Yeah, and so I was like, maybe not. Maybe don't give up on men just yet. Maybe don't give up on the potential for a genuine connection just yet.
And what was her response?
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been hurt. That brings me into what we were wanting to discuss today, and that is the dystopian landscape of dating apps. So I know connection is a very big piece in the work that you do. Can you tell us how you feel about the effect dating apps has on genuine connection?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I feel that it, tends to uh, make people move away from genuine connection. I think that the apps have made, and even online communications have kind of sterilized our communications, and they've made it so that it's harder for connection to take place. Like when I was wanting to connect with people and reaching out, I wasn't like going on dating apps to try to connect with more people that way, because there's so much that's fake there. There's so much plasticity, facade. There's a lot of just straight scammers, and manipulators, and people that are seeking to do you harm. I have a former friend of mine who was scammed out of tons of money, and his experiences on that was, he let himself get taken advantage of. And then
Which can be easy if you're desperate for love, right?
Connection, yeah, desperate
connection.
Not getting it in his real life, so happy to get whatever he could get online, and then
even if it ended up costing him
thousands and thousands of dollars.
And this is more common.
And how much time did he waste and invest too? This relationship went on for months.
Wow.
A relationship with someone who was basically catfishing him, stealing his money.
Wow.
And so that's, there's a lot of that's on there. So if I'm seeking genuine connection and I'm doing it in an environment that's filled with people that you can't tell if they're real or not. But I know if I go out into the real world and I talk to you, I don't think they have robots yet or AI yet.
Well,
I mean, who knows? We could be living in the Matrix right now.
You do know about that one AI influencer that's a robot. She lives in LA.
Yes, they're few and far between now. And I still think I would have a better chance at recognizing a phony in real life.
So are a lot of the men that you work with on dating apps?
Before talking to me, they are. Yeah. And I think after talking to me about this, I probably could see 50% or more getting off the apps. And that's just initially. And then I think over time, they all start to hear the truth in the words that I'm saying, that that's not where they're going to find the connection that they're looking for. It's also just, it's reinforcing the stuff that they want to overcome anyway. Like if they're dealing with insecurity, if their confidence has been taken because they got, because they gave their power away over years to this person, right? Until they were bereft, had no power anymore. And then that person kicked them to the curb. And now they have no self-worth, no confidence. They're insecure. Well, dating apps seem like a great place to meet somebody because I don't have to display confidence. I don't have to actually take any risks to swipe right. I have this, I have a joke that I bring up sometimes. It's like, be bold, be courageous, swipe right. No one ever said that.
Yeah, you have a good point there. So with the dating apps and just the rising popularity of them, it seems like hookup culture has just like gone wild due to this. So people are looking for essentially connection and they're finding it through very
Like shallow.
shallow sexual interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, this is not good on so many levels.
so many levels. Energetically, like you
Energetically is the big thing that came to mind too.
yeah, you attach
Mixing
yourself to someone else's sexual energy, and you're attaching yourself to everyone's sexual energy that they're attached to, and that it's just all these cords are being created that are kind of like siphoning your life force.
You've probably heard the saying, you are an average of the 5 people that are closest to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily true 100%, but it definitely bears, paying attention to, because the people we are around the most, they do influence us. Now, I don't think that makes us the average of those people, but it's going to influence our energy state, our emotions, the way we think, and all of that. And if I'm friends with somebody, or somebody in my close circle is, let's say they're a thief, let's say they're untrustworthy, right? Well, that energy is leaking out into my life. And why am I interacting with that person anyway? What's going on with me inside? Do I recognize that? Am I blinded by that? Do I feel that's okay? And that's just on a friendship level. When we become intimate sexually with someone, we're literally mixing and blending our energies. And just like you were saying about attachments, if they have attachments, insecurities, irrational fears, trauma in their lives, we're just absorbing that stuff unknowingly and unwillingly.
Yeah. It's
also,
a shame.
it leads to a lack of fulfillment. It leads to emptiness, right? We're looking for something. We're looking for this genuine connection. We're hoping to get it in this random, sexual hookup, but we don't get it from that. That's a temporary thing, and it's gone. And then oftentimes, the relationships just turn over so much. We're just looking for the next thing, the next person, the next one that's gonna
fill a void, right?
Yeah, distract us from our pain temporarily. And it's an addiction.
And this whole narrative is being sold now, and this is what I don't like, that women can go and sleep with whoever they want to. And this is true, like consenting adults can do this, but I really don't know anybody who is actually fulfilled by this, who is doing this and is really truly fulfilled.
You don't know anyone who's on dating apps and saying, man, this is the greatest in the world. Actually, so I know of someone who recently was saying that dating apps were really great for them. Now, that's what they said, but if I look at their situation, what I know happened is they were in a long-term relationship with someone who treated them very poorly, broke their boundaries consistently, and they stayed with that person. They stayed with them year after year until it got so bad, and the person did something so unforgivable or irreconcilable that the relationship had to end. Now, that person was lonely, seeking connection, etc., and got on dating apps, and he was able to, he's able to connect with people and temporarily assuage his pain and distraction. But we'll see where that leads. I don't think it's led to any real lasting connection. It's just been a process of distraction.
Or people who like
validation.
Yeah, just do these random hookups. Like, I don't know anyone who's like really truly happy with that lifestyle. I feel like, people might do it because it gives them the validation they need, or I don't know, maybe it makes them feel better if they can hook up with like a bunch of different people. But really, I feel like a lot of people who engage that way with their sexuality are feeling very empty and not empowered. So there's this narrative that like doing that will empower you, and really it's quite the opposite. It disempowers you, and it takes you so much further away from the like pure like sacredness and bliss and connection that can happen in a conscious union when you engage your sexual energy to love, to manifest. And this is just like becoming like not even a thing for so many people. And I've worked with some teenagers.
Uplift others too, right?
Yeah, I wish that I could talk to about this, because with this hookup culture, it's gotten to the point where there's just so many young guys walking around with pornos in their pocket, and they think that's how it's supposed to go from the very beginning. So the courtship ritual has kind of like started to disappear a little bit in the teenage circles, with the digital age. A lot of guys are asking girls for pictures, and I just find myself wondering what dating is going to be like for them.
Yeah,
And
well, there's not a lot of models out there to show people what healthy looks like, healthy male-female interactions look like.
yeah,
We're not taught that in school, figured out on our own. A lot of people had, parents that were in really good relationships. Maybe the father was a strong masculine figure, and the mother was, very very much in her feminine, and they had a great dynamic. And those kids kind of intuitively understand a lot of things, but those are the lucky ones. And that wasn't my experience.
yeah, me either.
My parents were great people. They are great people, but they had their own issues they were working out. And I definitely was never given instructions from my father on how to interact with women. Never.
And do you feel like if you were, that would have helped you?
Not the meaning of a relationship, none of that stuff. It was all kind of left up to the schools and to the church.
But the schools didn't do anything.
They did nothing, and the church just instilled guilt in me.
Yeah. And so many people now are walking around with these templates of shame for their bodies, and shame just like for their sexuality, and shame for their fears. And religion does instill a lot of shame that we have to then like unwind to even begin to heal. And it's just so mind-blowing to me that even people who may have had some trauma but didn't have like a super like traumatic life still has to do so much work to heal and unwind from the conditioning and the programming that has been projected onto us since childhood.
Yeah, there's, I don't think anyone is immune to it.
And so when these men are showing up in your retreats and in your mentorship, is this usually like the first step that they're taking, or have they been work on this journey? Is it kind of like a mix once they come to you?
Most of the guys that I work with on retreats, they've already had some coaching in this area. A lot of them have been through a program which helps them to recognize how they've given their power away, how they've been complicit in creating the drama, the pain, the suffering, the betrayal, all these kinds of things. And, so we want to stop being victims first and foremost, because a victim never gets what they want. They just take what they get. And they have no power to do anything except by manipulating others through pity and things like that. So first thing we got to do is get over the victimhood mentality. Now, if someone isn't over their victimhood, I don't want to see them on a retreat. They need to do first. That's the number one prerequisite for doing this work, is you must recognize that being a victim is not going to get you there. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll be completely free of being a victim. We can still, victimize ourselves in small ways, but it's like the bulk of the work has been done. And I recognize, at least I'm aware that, victim mentality is not going to bring me the life that I want. It's going to keep me stuck. It's going to keep me disempowered. So that's like number one. Then, we start to, like I say, recognize those patterns of behavior where we've been complicit in victimizing ourselves, and then start to make corrections there. And, the third thing is starting to get some experience with emotional release, with meditation. With a lot of guys, we have them do qigong before they come to the retreats, which is a pretty intense form of energy work that helps us to really stabilize our emotions, to become grounded enough to where we can experience emotion. Do this work, it doesn't mean we're never going to feel sad. It doesn't mean we're never going to feel hurt or grief. we're not trying to stop those feelings. What we're trying to do is allow them to express in healthy ways or release them so that we're transformed. So they're not carrying around anger from 10 years ago. They
Yes.
say, I heard this said that, what's the difference between a normal person and a spiritual master when it comes to feelings? Does a spiritual master, an enlightened being, they still feel anger? And they said, oh, yes, I feel anger, but it comes in a flash and then it's gone.
So it's all about learning how to take back control of your emotions.
Well, yeah, I would say control is an interesting word to use, because it's like we gain control by letting go of control.
Yeah.
And so when we let go of control feels like, I need to force the issue. I need to fix it, change it. I'm basically in a disempowered state and I'm trying to reclaim my power. But letting go of control, releasing control, is empowering. And this is like counterintuitive until you start to experience.
Yeah.
Once we start to experience it in the body and in our emotions, then we realize, oh, this is true. This is actually very empowering. What I've been doing before is I've been shutting down my emotions. I've been short-circuiting my energy flows through my body. Whenever we're holding on to emotions, it's creating electromagnetic fields that block the flow of energy in our body. If anyone's interested in this, they can look into the work of Dr. Jerry Tennant. He's got some great lectures on this. But nonetheless, when we release those trapped emotions, that energy begins to flow again. And now we have become empowered. And if all we're trying to do is control the emotions, we're keeping it locked in place. We're suppressing, we're battling with ourselves. And so we're using an inordinate amount of our own energy against ourselves. So empowerment and freedom looks like this. Looks like I'm okay with feeling whatever feelings come up. But I'm not going to blame you for them. I'm not going to allow myself to get shut down because of them. And I'm not going to be victimized by them. I'm actually going to be vulnerable and courageous enough to allow the feelings to come up. And so this comes up on retreats too. A lot of times, the last retreat, I stood up there and, I cried in front of men. One of the few times in my life that I've done it. It was so liberating because it was just genuine, and I wasn't whining, I wasn't complaining. I was dealing with some real difficult emotions that came up, and being able to be vulnerable in a group of men, for me, that was liberation.
So
that was
healing.
liberation because I knew I don't have to hide anything anymore. And that was also a very good way of setting an example for these men. That weakness, vulnerability is not weakness. Like whining is weakness, complaining is weakness, victimizing yourself is weakness, blaming others is weakness. Vulnerability is strength.
Yes, I agree 100%.
I think personally, I looked at a lot of the work of Brene Brown too. I think she's amazing. And one of the realizations that I had after exploring vulnerability a little more deeply myself was that, man, it's like vulnerability is the portal. It's the portal to every experience that I want to have. If I'm not comfortable, if I'm not okay being vulnerable, I may as well just hang it up, because life is going to be very bland.
Yeah.
What are the experiences that we want to have in life, right? We want to express courage. We want to feel love. Well, if we want to feel love, we're going to have to risk some things, right? We're going to have to risk being hurt to feel love.
Yeah.
But if we know we're grounded and strong, we know that we can take it. If hurt happens, hurt's going to happen. Nobody is immune from hurt in life. So when we come into acceptance with that and we don't fear it anymore, and we're finding strength in our ability to allow ourselves to feel these feelings, it's a game changer.
Absolutely. So what are some of the results that you've got with your clients, and how has that helped them moving forward in their life?
Well, let's see. I'll give one example for sure. Is a guy who's been to the last 3 retreats as well. And his situation was, he came out of a relationship and he was really depressed when he got out. I actually, I spoke to him. I was one of the first people in our community that spoke with him and kind of brought him in, got him involved, got him, into the program, and then invited him out to a retreat. When he came to the retreat, he was just, you could see he was carrying a lot of heaviness, and he was a genuine nice guy. This guy had very good qualities, but he's not like, he wasn't an confident man or like a happy person, even anything like that. But you could see he was a genuine nice person. Didn't want to hurt anybody, didn't want to burden anybody with his problems or anything like that. Didn't want to make any waves with anyone, but he also just wasn't, he was a little bland in that way, right? Because he wasn't really expressing his character, because so much of that he had been robbed from him. So after coming to the first retreat, he started noticing some changes. By the time he came to the second retreat, it was a revolution. This guy, on the middle of the retreat, he's talking and he's like, yeah, and this and that. And he's smiling while he's talking. And I'm like, you realize what you're doing? You're talking through a smile. He's like, yeah, I've never done this before. I've never done this before. I was like, well, wait till you go out into your life after you leave here. You keep doing that and watch what difference this is going to make in your life. And he started, he started going out and he started approaching people. He started demonstrating this confidence. He started talking about these things and sharing them with others. He started, telling his family members that he was going to, he was not going to be the same person anymore. He didn't care what they expected of him anymore, because he was going to do his own thing and start living his life for him. It's time, it's time to stop living for other people and to stop behaving in the way that you think society or the world expects you to behave, and to start discovering who you really are, what's important to you, and how do you want to express and what do you want to create in this world. He's gone on to start he posted videos of him playing music online, something he always wanted to do, but was too afraid to do because he didn't want to be judged. And he's talked about this, and I've seen some of these videos, and they're quite good. And he was like telling me one time, he's like, yeah, man, when I was up there, I was making that video. It's like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I was having the time of my life, felt amazing. And I listened to it back.
Fucking love it.
When I watched that video back, I said, damn, that's a cool guy.
Yes. Yes. What a fucking blessing, right?
This is someone now that I'm proud to know. This is someone, he's not a nice guy anymore. He's a badass. I don't mean like he's a bad boy. I know what you mean. He's a solid motherfucker. Excuse my language. He's like a solid dude.
Awesome.
Someone that you want. Someone that you don't invite to the party because he's not going to cause any waves. You invite this guy to the party because he's bringing the party.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet that feels so good for him to embody that.
It's a total revolution.
So if you are suggesting that your clients do not use dating apps, what do you suggest that they do? And what kind of methods have you used instead of dating apps?
Yeah, well, I always say get out into the real world and start meeting people. We can connect with people in group, at events, or just out and not comfortable connecting with people, approaching people, let's say, approaching strangers. I tell this to guys. Why are you on dating apps? Why? If you really ask yourself and you dig down deep, what's going on inside that's brought you here? Because certainly you must come across people you find attractive in real life. Why aren't you approaching them? Do you approach them? Most of the time I find the answer is no, I don't. I'm on the dating apps because when I drill down, it's because I'm afraid of approaching people. It's because I'm afraid of being rejected.
Yeah, like what if they're already in a relationship or something, right?
Yeah, or what if, what if their mom's there? What if they're in a group of people? What if they all laugh at me? I don't want to be embarrassed because I'm insecure. And so those are all things that are not going to be solved by finding a relationship on a dating app. I
agree. Yeah, I did a short stint on the dating apps too, because I was working on a manifestation of bringing in a sacred relationship and bringing in a partner. And my in my mind, I was like, well, there's really no way I'm going to be able to do this because I'm home all the time. And when I do go out in the world, I don't really think it's my job to approach people, right? It's just not, and I don't want to, I don't know. I just don't want to be the first one
Yeah.
usually.
And it's not certainly not, I don't think it's because you couldn't do it, right? It's just like you don't necessarily want to do that.
No, I don't want to take that away from the guy,
Giving him the opportunity to demonstrate his confidence.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that's kind of like, I get why Bumble does what they do, but I didn't like that about that app. I noticed that, you know, because the woman had to start the conversation first, that a lot of the times the guy never really displayed his confidence in the interactions that I've had with men on Bumble.
It's funny because I remember seeing an ad for them like years ago, and I never got on any apps until it was about a year and a half ago. I did it for like a month or two. So prior to that, I had like kind of like no experience. No, you know what? That's not entirely true. I think I tried OkCupid like maybe 10, 12 years ago. Again, it was like for another month or something like that. But so oh man, I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens.
It's okay. We've been on here for a while. I think it would be a pretty good time to start wrapping up. So
well, let me finish answering that last question.
Okay.
Because I think there's still more.
Okay.
And so what do I do and what do I recommend people do?
Yes.
So first and foremost, if we're not approaching people in real life because we're insecure, we got to fix that insecurity. What's going on there? No amount of dating apps, no amount of relationship is going to fix your insecurity. That's something you have to do for yourself, by yourself,
Definitely.
On your own or with the support of a coach or something, but the work has to be done by you. Nobody could do it for us.
Yeah. I think having a coach and having guidance is so super important. I would not be where I am today without having coaches, and I hire coaches all the time.
As do I. And I think that anyone who's serious about growing in whatever area that they want to excel in, if they're not working with a coach, they're doing themselves an extreme disservice. The amount of time and energy that you can save, and also, by instead of learning things by trial and error, and also just the simple fact that, when you're working with someone who has solved the problem that you are stuck in, they've demonstrated their capacity to do that. And then now you're working with them. So you're getting their downloads, you're getting their mirror neurons, and they're able to see. They have the capacity to see. Just like I said this on the last retreat, I'm like, guys, why is it do you think that I can stand up here for hours with no notes and talk directly to you and know exactly every single thing that you're going through and what the solution is, or what another potential thing to try that's probably going to help you is? It's because I've been there. I've been there. I've been exactly where you are. Yeah. So when you work with somebody who has done all those things, it's invaluable. You can't put a price on it.
Yeah, I definitely resonate more with the coaches that have, and the teachers that have really like been through it and have risen above it and are now kind of like just sharing those same teachings of what helped them.
Yeah. And you got to look at the motivation of the coach too. There are definitely are some out there that are going to tell you they've overcome this problem, but maybe they haven't. There's a lot of like financial coaches, for instance, they're trying to get rich off giving people financial advice when they really haven't done anything to create wealth themselves other than give this advice. It doesn't really work. And so that's something that, we have to use our due diligence and check and, really feel into that relationship and make sure that we found someone that we resonate with, that we can respect and trust. Yeah. With trying to take advantage of us. Sometimes they're not even trying to take advantage. They're just like, they're trying to do this, but they haven't really licked it themselves yet. They're trying to embodied others, but they haven't embodied it fully yet. And that's like kind of the peril of this fast-paced society we live in, where everyone wants to be an expert without really doing the work. Yeah. And the people who and they really understand your problems, that's a really good way of gauging whether or not they've overcome this. So how can people find you if they want to work with you? Well, My website is koharalan.com, KOHARALAN.com. They can look there. Also, I'm sure we'll put some links in the
Yeah, I'll add all the
descriptions.
stuff in the show notes.
You can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I will generally accept friend requests, or if you message me first and let me know. Like I had a guy yesterday message me, hey, just subscribe to your channel. Wanted to learn more about what you're doing, and now he's a client of mine. So that's pretty cool. By all means, you can find me there, and I'm happy to speak with people. I usually, I go above and beyond to try to help people out, whether they're my clients or not, because I enjoy it. And also it often leads to them, getting some benefit. And even if they don't work with me personally, they might refer somebody to me later. This is my life's work. I love doing this work. I'd be doing this whether you paid me or not. But it's definitely my mission and my vision. So I'm happy to help. I'm here to help. This is what I love to do.
And you have a retreat coming up in March, right?
I do. It's coming up real soon.
On your farm in Maine?
Yeah, Central Maine. It's going to be 5 days. It will be an incredible experience. We're going to do yoga, chi meditation. There will be meditations. There's going to be some lectures so that you guys really understand on an intellectual level why this stuff is so important, which tends to motivate us to really start to do the work when it makes sense and we can see like the vision and the pitfalls and the pathway. Then that is inspirational. So they've just been getting better and better. And, without trying to sound braggadocious or whatever, the work that we've been doing and the quality of the processing and the retreats themselves has just been time. So I'm super excited because it seems like that's just a trend. They're just getting better and better. I have like a 50% return rate on my retreats. So what I mean by that is like half the people that come to retreat, like half of those come back to the next one. Then those retreats, half of those men will come to the next one. So it's like people keep coming back. They keep coming back. Why is that? Well, it's not because it didn't work. It's because it worked and they want more of that.
Beautiful. It's such great work that you're doing. And you also, for those who aren't really maybe ready for the retreat yet, you do have a free Facebook group where you hold group coaching. How often is that? Once a week?
Yes. So I do have a group called Empowered Masculine, the new breed of world changers. And so you can also find that book. And if it's something that you want to learn more about, we discuss 8 levels of masculine empowerment and how to embody them each. We also talk about the 8 core issues or fears that we all have to overcome in order to embody this. And then there's a pathway and a process for overcoming each of those. So,
I love that.
Pretty rad.
Well, I hope all of the right men that need this kind of healing hear this and seek you out and get their healing on, because I feel like it's just such a necessary thing in our world today. And it's just so in my heart to hold space for men in that intention. So thank you so much for coming on today. And yeah,
absolutely. It's been such a pleasure. And
yes,
thank you for having me and for doing this work as well. I think that it's time. The world needs this.
Yes.
And so it's exciting. We live in very exciting times, and you and I and a lot of others, our peers and everything, we get to be on the forefront of bringing in the new consciousness and integrating it. So
I love it.